Hey everybody, Andrew here. Welcome back to Reissued. We are here in my kitchen today, partly because my office is under construction. We did end up pulling the ceiling down, and partly because we're addressing some deep topics today, and we generally tend to do that here in the kitchen. Today, I'm gonna be making some collage art with some magazines that I have on hand. I've done a couple similar things in the past with the tarot card art video and the little magazine water closet sign that's behind me, but today I wanted to sort of delve and deep dive into a collage style and see how that works for me. I'm gonna be taking some inspiration from my fellow artist and YouTuber Leah. Her channel name and artist name is Flanzella. Leah is based in Toronto and is making some really cool pieces using vintage magazines like 50s, 60s, 70s imagery. So her pieces have a really bold graphic look, but they also feel kind of like nostalgic and vintage, which is totally my vibe. Her pieces are really evocative and interesting, but also bold and graphic, and they seem like something that would be like easy to hang in your house. I want one of her pieces in my house. So this has got me thinking a lot about what makes design-friendly art, and can I make it? Often when I create, I just kind of do whatever comes to me, whatever colors, whatever medium, without really thinking about what it's gonna look like in a space. And so I wanted to challenge myself today to take inspiration from Leah's collage style and to create artwork that feels design-friendly and can easily be hung in a space without feeling boring and basic. We're gonna get to that later. As always, I'm procrastinating here because I'm not really sure how this project is gonna go, but I think we better just jump on in. 3, 2, 1, let's go. Alright, so today, in addition to taking inspiration from Leah's work, I have kind of two other inspirations in mind. The first is this piece by Richard Archwager. This is a Lincoln Center Festival poster featuring one of his pieces that I've had. I bought it with my mom maybe in 2009, and I love this piece. This is hung in every home, every apartment that I've had, and it's always the easiest one to hang. Like, I wish I had one of these in every room. Like, it literally could go in any room in my house. It's very monochromatic, it's neutral, it's sculptural, it's designy, but it still like makes you feel something. It's really beautiful, right? So I have that one in mind. And additionally, I'm thinking about these kind of collage sketches that I did forever ago. I was planning to make a dance film and I needed some sort of like visual representation of what was going on in my head just to help me kind of like flesh things out. And so I cut up a bunch of magazines and made these collages on like pizza boxes. And even though they're a little bit rough and ready, there's something about this that I really like. And I kind of want to revisit that feeling, but take it to the next level next time. Only in those collages, it was sort of about the body being this kind of disposable thing, so they're a little bit like gruesome. And since we're making something that's design friendly, I think it'd be better to go more in the direction of the other poster and do something that's a little bit more loving and beautiful and warm as opposed to savage. So I'm taking a cue from Leah's process here. I'm gonna flip through the magazines and kind of pick out some images that I think will work for this design, also anything that just stands out to me, and then I'll lay everything out, be able to look at everything together, and then start kind of choosing what goes together. So today we are working with my favorite W magazines from 2010. These are the ones that I featured several times here on the channel. And then we have this stack over here, 1998 George, 1999 People, and these ones Vanity Fair like 2012 through 2016. And then also I have a variety of different black and white papers, different sizes, slightly different shades, and then this like drywall joint tape. Clearly it's not living its best life at this time, but that could be interesting.
Let's start with the W magazines. These particular magazines have a special place in my heart because so much of the imagery from that time in my life really shaped me in a way. This was 2010 when I was in art school and creating all the time. I have a theory that the media and art that you encounter between the ages of 16 and 20, when you're starting to come into your own as an artist and individual, really sticks with you for the rest of your life and shapes your aesthetic forever. Even though I didn't necessarily have my hands on these physical copies at that time, the ads, the editorials, and the general imagery has clearly stuck with me in my choreography, costume design, and visual artwork. As I flip through, right away I'm drawn to the large hands and limbs, mostly in black and white.
I don't want to destroy Carly.
But I'm also pulling some interesting background images and textures. I was really hoping to find some images with the whole body in the frame, with the figures wearing pretty neutral, simple clothing that felt timeless. Those were hard to come by. This is pretty close. Can't say I'm loving the outfit though. Those fingerless gloves are so 2010. This Lara Stone for Calvin Klein campaign was so iconic. Maybe I can make something work with these. I also pulled a couple pages with picture frames or borders that might be helpful to highlight parts of my collages, or give me a literal window to layer images. At this point, I started to worry that everything I was pulling was too black and white, so I pushed myself to pull more color images, even if they were outside my line of thought. The George, People, and Vanity Fair were definitely a bit disappointing in terms of the kind of imagery that I was looking for this time. I needed bolder scale and contrast, and these just felt very ordinary. But I did go ahead and pull a few things that spoke to me that might work for other projects down the line. With a bunch of pages pulled, I started cutting around the outlines of the bodies and body parts to allow me to see how some of the pieces might fit together. I played around with the images for hours off camera and called it a day.
Alright, it's the next day. This is really tricky for a couple of reasons. First of all, Leah seems to be really organized in her process. She has little binders and her workspace looks clean. But yeah, I'm a chaotic mess. Here's my kitchen at the moment. I can't really decide what to throw away and what not to throw away. So we moved in here so I could sort of get a better idea of what I wanted to look at, kind of away from everything else. The other thing that's tricky here, partly with this collage style and partly with sort of interior design friendly art, is there's a certain amount of simplicity and restraint that goes into that, right? First of all, it's hard enough to know when to stop on a painting or when I do one of my other collage sort of painting works. And in this case, it feels like you can rearrange things in infinite combinations, and maybe the right solution is just around the corner, so it's a little bit hard to sort of land on one thing that feels right. Also, it's a little bit hard to fight that feeling inside of yourself of like, it's too simple, I didn't do enough, I just cut out a few things and put them together. That's like art criticism 101, like a child could have done that. Yeah, but did they? Did they have the vision to put it together, and did they have the confidence to say, it's done, it's perfect, it's enough, right? So I'm having trouble with that confidence right now, but I do have some things that I'm really liking. Let me show you what I'm working with here. So this one here is kind of more what I was thinking based on the collage work that I had done myself with this kind of like kissing moment. I'm gonna shape this up a little bit and cut away some sections, but I think that's kind of the look that we're going for here. Over here, I'm really drawn to this moment here where his face sort of interlocked with her shoulder. That was a great find. I added in this arm to add some color. I'm not sure about it. I added the hand to add some larger scale. Not sure about it, but there's something cool happening here. And then over here, this one was totally unexpected. Just this sort of like mass of arms and hands touching themselves. This over here is gonna go away. I just didn't want to commit to cutting that off yet. And she's gonna go away, but I like this little Polaroid insert here. And so I thought I could fill that with something else that would feel like the head on this body. I think I'm at the point now where I'm able to commit to these choices and just jump in. Jump with me.
So I pulled out a cutting mat and utility blade and got to cutting into the frames that I pulled. I switched out the blade for a fresh one to get started since I knew that the magazine paper was going to be a disaster with a dull blade. I'm honestly not the most patient person when it comes to this kind of work, so it's definitely not perfect, but it'll work just fine.
So this is what I'm talking about here. Just arranging the same pieces in a slightly different way gives a totally different feeling. I switched over from the white paper to the creamier paper, and in the process I forgot how these were laid out. And so I kind of fiddled around with it and I came up with this thing that looks totally different. I'm still not loving this gloved hand situation. Something about the legs going off to the side just feels really dreamy, like she's floating away. Definitely gives some dimension to what like this looked like a very static and forced pose. Okay, so I'm loving the layouts of how these are looking. I'm feeling really inspired. I'm feeling like we found a flow. So now I'm gonna hit the magazines again or dig through my pile of crap, either one, and try to find some different kinds of images. I'm thinking like fire or smoke, or I really would love to find some like dandelion things. Just these things that are like more of an internal feeling and would give kind of like a little dialogue about kind of what's going on in the minds of the figures rather than like physically. Yes to fake clouds. Thank you to De Beers Jewelry for giving me exactly the image that I needed. And we have Giselle with fire. Yes. Manifest it and you will find it. Feeling lucky. Okay, so I'm thinking that the fire looks amazing here in this frame. I also really like the general palette of this with this piece. So that's gonna work really well. I think that these clouds in here with maybe a little bit of this blue sky would be a really nice addition, maybe with or without the frame up in this corner, just to kind of give a little bit of dream feeling happening there. And then over here, I'm a little underwhelmed by the color of this. I don't think it would read as being very graphic from a distance, and it might feel a little bit too on the nose with this sort of hand blowing situation. I'm losing the light in here, so I'm probably gonna stop for tonight, clean up my giant mess now that I more or less know which pieces I'm gonna be working with, and we'll come back tomorrow and finish these up. So design-friendly art has been on my mind for a couple of reasons. First of all, hello, I'm decorating my house, so I'm constantly thinking about how to use the art pieces that I have, what art pieces I might need to acquire to sort of fill out a space, how things work together. It's a tough balance here. I went to an art festival with my sister a couple months ago, and there were a lot of really talented artists, really amazing pieces, but there were very few that I'm like, ooh, I would buy that and hang that in my home. And it's not like I have a gallery or a salon or something that's like not my home to hang my art. So even though I may really respect a piece or like a piece, it kind of has to fit within the home and the style that I'm creating here. On the flip side, I've been watching a lot of interior design YouTube lately, partly because I like a good before and after as much as anybody else, and it's interesting to see what other creators are doing, their editing styles, that sort of thing. But I can't help but notice when some of the designs feature art that's kind of basic. Again, you want to choose art that works with elements of the space, and not every piece of art can be like the loud statement. Sometimes you need quieter pieces that can work with other things as well. But you know, we reach a point where it just doesn't feel very unique, and it's like, of all the things you could hang in your home, it just doesn't feel special, you know? So my advice when you're choosing art for your home, whether you're thrifting it, whether you're purchasing directly from an artist, whether you're buying a print, couple of things to think about. First of all, I think color is a really big one. At this point, when I acquire new pieces, I kind of think about the color schemes for each space or what's happening in the other pieces of art that I have and how they'll work together. So color is a big one. I think that more sculptural elements and textural elements can do a lot as well when you're looking for something that has more of a quiet energy without it being basic or boring. And I also think it's important to kind of consider the content and if that's giving the vibe that you want for the space. I think there are certain kinds of art that feel studious or exuberant or restful or romantic. So it's worth taking into consideration how you want to feel in a space and whether the art is reflecting that kind of vibe. Final thought here in the decorator-friendly art conversation is money. It can be very expensive to buy original work directly from an artist. You know I'm always thinking about budget in my makeovers, so I think that if you have the means to splurge and it feels like you're gonna do a really featured piece in the room, if you can purchase a piece directly from an artist, go for it. I think that's a great investment if it's a piece that you love. Prints are also a solid way to go. I personally really like posters that have like writing on the bottom if they were a part of like a gallery, exhibition, or some sort of specific place. I think that having like a date and a time and a location on your art sort of like gives more texture and history to your space. Keep in mind with prints and posters that framing can be really tricky. I've splurged in the past on some pieces and have gotten them dry mounted and custom framed. That adds up real quick, so if you can get like a stock poster frame, that can work better, but it tends to look a little bit wrinkly in there. And finally, I've been really lucky to find some really amazing pieces at thrift stores. It doesn't happen all that often, but every once in a while something comes along that's just really beautiful. So now you know I want to hear from you in the comments. What does interior design friendly art mean to you? Where do you shop for art? What type of art brings you joy in your space? Let me know. Drop it down in the comments below. All right, y'all, final day working on this. I think the next step here is just to start to commit a little bit more and glue some of the pieces that I know that I like together. Then I'll probably go in with some paint and some pens and some other things to kind of give it the reissued stamp that feels a little bit like me. I'm trying to remind myself at this point that it's okay to be kind of messy with this. That's a little bit more how I roll generally in my art making, so I want to keep that sort of like raw, unkempt thing that feels like me. Let's finish these up.
Since I was bound by the crops that the magazine photographers chose, and many of my images were cut off, I had to decide whether to have those cropped limbs pushed up against the edge of the page and appear to be continuing off, or to simply allow them to be cut off within the frame. I found that carefully tearing the edge of the cut-off bodies felt much better than a hard cut, and gave the images an assembled quality that felt very surreal and self-aware. I also tried to keep pushing myself to make less obvious choices. The blue sky behind the clouds was nice, but what if it were a curtain instead? For the elements of the images that I didn't like that fingerless glove, I had thought about just painting them out, but instead I pushed through to find a composition that eliminated those elements entirely and kept only the areas that I liked. So in this case, I'm shifting the whole image over to the left of the frame to push that glove right off the edge of the paper. Scale was a huge part of the composition struggle as well. I kept trying to add more large elements, but I found that too many elements of the same scale felt overwhelming. I had originally planned to put another face or two in the Polaroid frame, but the fire creeping up in the frame from below feels much more abstract and evocative. Popping some pink toned fireworks in the frame behind the red lipstick woman gave a nice subtext and tied that blue and red palette together nicely. And since I missed the pop of blue from the obvious blue sky, I pulled some birds and a less obvious blue sky to slide into the frame just behind the floating woman's face. This brought the whole piece together in color, balance, and dreamy concept. Getting everything glued down perfectly was surprisingly tricky since the pieces needed to overlap and interlock just right for limbs, faces, and design lines to intersect where I wanted them. I tried to lock in the big points of contact with glue and then worry about the edges. I stand by the strategy, but I'm not sure everything is glued as securely as I might like. I talked to Leah about this, and she suggested that I might spray the finished pieces with a workable fixative to lock everything in and to help keep the magazine pages, which are not really made to last, from fading over time and under lights. Now let's paint. Which was a super subtle process. I didn't want to disturb the composition or the color too much, just enhance and unify the existing colors and offer some little outlines to blend the edges where the cut pieces overlapped and met the background paper. My goal here was to offer a slightly painterly quality and to make all of the images feel like one cohesive, albeit surreal image.
Alright, so the pieces are done. I'm getting ready to hop on a call with Leah right now. As I've been making some work that's inspired by her pieces, she's been making some work inspired by my pieces. I know that she thrifted a piece to work on, which is a very reissued thing, and so I can't wait to see what she made. I'm nervous to show her my work, but hopefully she'll like it. Hopefully y'all will too.
Hello!
Hey!
It's so good to see you, and I hope your week went really well.
Thank you. It did. It was a little stressful. I'm happy with how things turned out, but it was a little chaotic on my end. How did you feel about it?
Yeah, definitely like calm on the outside was hectic on the inside. I feel like this was like a very big challenge. Definitely pushed me out of my comfort zone. So yeah, I'm definitely really excited to show you.
All right, so I have your images here. I'm gonna open them and take a look. Wow. So did you pull everything out of the frame and then work on it and put it back in?
Yeah, I had all this stack of like army photos. I wanted to do something for a long time with it.
I love like the way that you have achieved such layering so it feels like it's kind of part of the same image. No, and you also chose to cover eyes. That's a controversial thing on my channel. People don't like that. But I'm all about it because it feels like it gives, I don't know, there's an anonymity there and it feels like it's less precious in some way. Like it feels just really bold.
Yeah, and I was thinking with it, it almost like contrasts the real meaning, right? Like it's like supposed to be like the first kiss or whatever, and now it's like this, instead it's like kind of like sad looking, you know, like
yeah,
happy. So
no, I love the melancholy. I always lead into that. All right, do you want to see what I sent you? So I actually did 3 different pieces.
Oh my goodness, busy bee. Okay, I'm gonna start with Afterburn, and you named them all already. That's my downfall, is I feel like naming them is so hard sometimes.
It depends. It either comes really easily or like it's just like a struggle. It depends on the piece.
Oh my god, these are so cool. Wow. And they feel so cohesive in like such a beautiful way.
Thank you. It was a challenge for me, like, so often when I create a piece, all of the structure and the architecture and the like layout is kind of there already, and then I'm just working with color and layering. And so this was just like all about the design of like negative space and like how are we arranging, and like it was so challenging for me. Like I have so much respect for like the way that you're able to lay things out, because it was just like it was hard. It was hard to feel like I was having to like figure that out in real time, you know?
Yeah, it's always really difficult. And I see here, like, you have so many different techniques going on too, like the ripped paper and then like the close-up on the hands, like cutting up like really closely. I like to use hands a lot in my pieces, so it's kind of cool to see like all the hands.
Well, and that was the thing that I really drew inspiration. Like a lot of my favorite pieces of yours are the ones where it's like a hand coming into the frame holding something, but there's one with the birds on the hand. But like, yeah, love the hands. Definitely, that was like a Leah moment. I'm like, yes, we're doing hands.
Well, I'm so happy to do this with you, and I think we've made some amazing art this week, so that's like awesome.
I think so too. I'm so happy. Like I love your piece so much. It's like, I think it's such a good like representation of you and your channel, and like, I don't know, I'm excited that we could make this happen. Thank you so much for joining me on this epic collage journey. This was a tough one for me to go outside of my comfort zone, but this is how we grow. These pieces will be available for purchase on my website. Also, doing a little experiment here, I'm gonna make these 3 pieces available as downloadable digital files. You can purchase each one to download. It's gonna come in 2 sizes, the original size, which is 11 by 14. I also am gonna be making a 24 by 36 inch like poster style if you're looking for something more large scale. With these files, you can get them printed at somewhere like Vistaprint, Poster Jack, wherever you want to get them printed. You can purchase frames off the rack, or you could have them custom framed. Lots of options here. Just wanted to provide a more affordable option in case you're looking for art for your space. Be sure to check out Leah's video and her channel, Flanzella. I'm going to link the video down below. As always, thank you so much for taking the time to watch. If you like this video, like this video. If you have thoughts about interior design friendly art, definitely leave those in the comments below. Next week, we're going to be diving into the studio makeover. So many decisions to be made, and I need your help. So stay tuned for that. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.